Ready, set, go.
Welcome to The Sweet Spot, an Updog podcast. I'm Andrea Morissette.
And I'm Jack Faley, and we are your hosts today.
Thank you very much. We're going to be talking today about the AKC Disc Dog Challenge, and we have the amazing guest, Megan Taris from Florida. Woo-woo! Thank you for joining us today, Megan. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your dogs, where you're from, your club, all the good stuff?
Well, I'm Megan. I'm from Tampa, Florida. I'm with the Central Florida Disc Dog Club.
Dog and Disc Club, but that's okay.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I knew it was Central Florida.
That's the important part.
Yeah. I've got 3 little cattle dog mixes that I compete with. I've been doing this for almost 4 years. Started during COVID.
That's a good time to start.
Right. There was like nobody there, so it was perfect.
Nothing to do, not much competition, right? It was great.
Jack and Kat's backyard with like, you had like just I think it was like 5 people, right, Jack? Per like.
Yeah, we had like a limit. Like we only allowed a certain number of people in the yard at a time, and then they left, and another shift of people came in.
That's so cool.
I don't know what we were doing. We were just trying to follow the rules as best as we could.
It worked out great because I think that's what like kind of like helped us get like stay with it. Less people, less nervous.
Yeah,
true. Yeah, like not as many eyes on you when you first started playing. That's true.
Yeah.
So Megan, we always ask to, just so that people can get to know folks better on the podcast. Like a lot of people might be familiar with you as a disc dogger, but when you're not disc dogging, what do you do?
Pickleball.
Really? What is this pickleball thing?
You've not tried pickleball yet?
Sure.
Oh, it's amazing. It's like giant ping pong.
Keep talking about it.
Okay. Well, okay. I think actually Jack was saying in Alabama at Updiff, they're building courts, right, Jack?
Yeah, we had this whole conversation.
Yeah, I can talk about it.
For real?
Yeah. I'll bring my stuff at the Updiff and we'll all play. I'll teach all you guys.
Apparently it's gonna be an evening activity now. We've already decided because so many people are saying that they play pickleball as their side activity. I had no idea so many people that play disc played pickleball.
Megan, our last guest, Chris Knapp, who was also at the AKC Challenge. He's the one that won far out, and he came in second in freestyle.
Yeah.
He listed pickleball as one of the things he does as well.
What? You're just now telling me this? I could have talked about pickleball back then.
That was funny, and
we just found out about it earlier when we did that podcast episode. So,
and they got invited for the same 2 games. So maybe there's a trend in long distance great freestyle throwers. Pickleball. The secret code to improving your freestyle and long distance game. It's pickleball.
Pickleball. Maybe.
Awesome.
We gotta try it now.
All right, so pickleball, and what do you do for a living, Megan?
I'm a nurse for a living.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Dre, let's start talking about AKC Disc Dog Challenge.
Yeah, so speaking of the 2 games that I just mentioned, those are the 2 games that you were invited for. You were invited for freestyle and far out. So one of my favorite questions is, of those 2 games, which one's your favorite?
Freestyle. Hands down. Far out's really close though. Freestyle, it's just like there's nothing to like really compare it to because it's just you and your dog doing this whole routine, and it's just like a cool bonding. But then far out, been working on it a lot, so it's become my non-freestyle favorite game.
That's a lot less pressure, I think, for far out, and more of a individual kind of zone with your dog, where freestyle, you're being hit by so much, the crowd and the music and all the people looking at you and remembering all your stuff. Yeah, I can see how those in your brain be a different level of stress. Yeah. Were you like more nervous for one game or the other?
Definitely freestyle. I thought I'd be okay with freestyle because it's like once you start, your body knows the whole routine and just goes through. But then far out, I was kind of nervous because I was like, after up diff, we got like straight zeros across the board. So I was like, oh man, but we can't get any worse than 0. So I was like, so then I got all the nerves out in freestyle, and I think all my, nervous energy was gone. So I just relaxed for far out. So definitely freestyle was more nerve wracking.
Interesting. And do you feel like, you're in national television, so that's a lot of pressure, right? And
Yeah.
you're a quieter player socially. So like, how did
Yeah.
that fit into your experience? I would think freestyle would make me more nervous also for television just because there's so much pressure. But I'm interested to hear like how you felt about the televised portion of it, how it impacted each of the individual games.
Yeah, I try not to think about it. I think far out, it was more, that one was harder to not think about it because you are right there and the cameras are right there and you have more time to think. Freestyle, I'm like so busy trying to like think about my whole routine with Belle, making sure I hit the spots and all that, like where the discs need to be. And then I didn't really have time to think about that. And then I had to remember to like, smile and wave too. So that's a lot of thinking to go on. So I was kind of tried
Kind
to
of
ignore
the
so a lot in the brain. So I was like, once we started going, I was like, not to overthink about the camera, but far out, that was what you see all the cameras around. I was like, oh, I can't mess up. You get like 5 chances for that one. So
Are your dogs impacted by the cameras at all? Like, do they get nervous when the boom camera slides in or any of the mics or anything like that?
the two that came with me to AKC, not at all. They were not phased at all. And it was pretty cool because the one that I did far out with, she's new. And so
Yeah.
I was like, she wasn't phased by it at all.
And you
So
weren't sure how she would do there?
yeah, I could tell because she went to up dip this past year. She qualified for a few games after I got her, and she wasn't phased by like all the people and stuff. So like
You felt
let's
pretty
just,
good.
yeah. And so she did just like she was like you couldn't even tell. She wasn't phased or anything.
Nice. That's a big win right there. Just knowing your dog's comfortable in that environment. That just not knowing how your dog is going to handle a new environment for me creates an enormous amount of stress, right? Because you're
Yeah.
out there, the cameras are rolling. Like the worst thing ever is your dog like running away from you in fear, on
Yeah.
national television. Of course, they would edit that out, but you don't want that to be your experience. So that's cool
Yeah.
that you had a dog that you weren't sure exactly how she's going to handle it, but she handled it really well.
Yeah. Being so young too, I was like shocked on both sides.
So Megan, you were saying you got a 0 in far out at up diff. I guess I didn't even realize that.
All zeros, Jack. All 3 dogs, not one catch.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I know up diff was crazy. It was you guys were playing in a lake.
Yeah.
The weather was horrible that day, so I'm sure that was a big factor. But just watching Raya play at the AKC Disc Dog Challenge, she just looks so calm, and she always just looks nonchalant. Like she
Yeah.
runs out there super fast, and then she's like, "All right, I'll just wait here until that disc comes down and lands in my mouth." And like she just opens her mouth at the last second, doesn't jump, doesn't leap forward, just wherever I'm at on the field, that's where I'm gonna catch it. Like she just seems like it's effortless. So like when you were saying, you kind of had that in your mind, like that you had gotten a 0 at up diff. Like when you got that first catch with Raya, was that like a big relief?
Oh yeah. I was like, okay, we got 1. And then I wanted to make sure we got 2 more right after, just like keep it, especially with the rain. But after the
Well,
first one, I was like, okay, we're fine.
Yeah.
The first one, I feel like the first one is like so in the head. Like once you get that one, you're all right.
a safety
And
catch.
and you were
Yeah,
very consistent. Like all of your throws, you were getting them out there about 70 yards, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just want people to know this because I know there's lots of people out there that are probably trying to increase their distance.
Mhm.
And you wouldn't know it by watching the AKC Disc Dog Challenge, but being that Megan's in our local group, I know this and I can tell you secrets about her that I would say what, Megan, about a year and a half ago, like you were maxing out your distance at like 40 something yards and you were like, I can't throw it any further. And now
Yep.
you're like bombing them out there like 70 plus yards. So like what's the secret? What changed? What have you been doing to increase your distance?
Gary. He-
I do.
Hopefully he won't get mad if I give tips, but it was actually one of the I think it was the second time we did far out. It was like you said, like 40 yards, and I was like, ask Gary afterwards because after watching, like you're just like, wow. So he gave me a couple of tips, and then for the next like year, like you said, year and a half, there's like a big field in my neighborhood. So when I'm not working, I walk the girls there and would just go out there and just start practicing. He actually did. I thought it was crazy, but you do like I don't know if it's 2-step, but you kind of start backwards and then it teaches your hips how to like swing and like, because a lot of the motion comes with the hips. So he taught me that, and I was just doing that for a while. And once I started getting the distance, then I started doing the footwork. And then I just slowly kept going that way. And then I did Gary's seminar back in like when you guys all came over for the winter conference. So I took one of the classes with him. And he taught me like a couple more small techniques to tweak out my like approach and all that, the footwork. And then I think it got like we're so close to 80.
Yeah, you had some that were really close because I was out in the field doing the marking, and I think you did have somebody that were up in that high 70s, low 80 marks when you were throwing.
I think like the practice day when it wasn't raining, I was hitting it and I was really shocked because I was like, I didn't think I could ever break into the 80s. So.
That excited me because I was like, oh, we're gonna have some big ladies throwing. So yeah, your throws were really great in that, especially in that windy and rainy environment, throwing over 70 because the rain impacts the disc too. People don't think about that. The wind does, you can see that. You can see it careening left or right, but the rain like hits the disc and makes it heavier and pushes it down and changes the trajectory of it too, So it's not easy to throw long distance that far in the rain and be able to throw with enough power to push through that much water. So I was really excited to see that from a woman, especially see those big numbers come in.
Thanks. It's cool. It's just cool to see like how far, like the 40 yards to.
Yeah, no, it's impressive, Megan. And one thing that I've always thought was great about you and about your approach to disc dogging is you're not afraid to ask questions. You see something that somebody else is doing and you just go talk to them about it, and you pick up tips from people, and then you go back and you practice, and 2 weeks later you're out there doing it. And so that's just really cool that's our disc dog community. That's the up dog community, like everybody's very helpful. And then like you said, you went to a conference with Gary, and so those are the ways that you can kind of pick up ideas from people and put them into practice. And it's amazing. 30 yards plus you've got on your far out throws now.
In a year and a half of practice.
Yeah, it took a while. But
oh yeah, well of course it doesn't. It seems like overnight, but it takes you got to put in the time, you got to put in the practice. And like, so another thing I wanted to ask you too, I know that you played sports growing up, and so you have a little bit of an athletic background. How does that athletic background, how do those experiences help you in the game of far out or in the game of freestyle?
I feel like it helped me, especially with freestyle, because it helps me. So I actually did, I play ultimate frisbee, and that's how I started to I knew some trick throws and stuff. And I have friends that they'll show me trick throws, and it's different with like an ultimate frisbee disc compared to the dog disc, but it's still the same, what is it? The finger grip. Yeah. Thank you. So it's still the same grip and everything. So it's just, I think having people like with the ultimate frisbee, like I saw them and them teaching me like cool new tricks, and I can take it over to disc dog, and then having the sports background, it helped me like learn how to pick up things faster. I think that makes sense.
Sure.
But it helped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make connections to something that you already knew.
Yeah.
And then you played ultimate. That's really cool.
Yeah. It was after college. My friend actually talked me into it. And so there was just it was like a Sunday fun day pickup, we called it. So it's just for fun, but there was
co-ed or an all girls team?
It was like it's co-ed, so there wasn't too many girls that went out, but it was like it wasn't like
to a team, right? It's just pickup.
Yeah.
That's how I started ultimate.
You did ultimate too?
Yeah, that's how I started.
You went up to like pickups and stuff.
Yeah, I just went to there was a local club and went and played pickup ultimate, and it was terrifying. I remember my first ever tournament. I was just praying no one threw me the disc because I didn't want to be the one that turned it over for the whole team. I sat back in the back. I was like, please don't throw it to me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I started an ultimate, and then when we showed up at CFTDC for the first time, throwing 40-yard bombs, everybody was confused because I was used to throwing strikes down to the end zone. That wasn't a weird throw or whatever, but that was a good toss and fetch throw. So I feel like that's a really great place to recruit people. Go to an ultimate match, bring your dog, let them throw a couple tosses to your dog, and you'll have a disc dogger real quick.
Oh yeah, it's cool because I'll bring out when it's at the cooler months. I used to bring out I'll bring out Belle because she's really easygoing, and so some people they like to watch them, and some of my friends are they're just so fascinating. They'll toss for them too, and they're just like,
yeah. Yep. That's how I got the bug. That's exactly how it happened for me. And then all of a sudden it was over. My whole life is dog frisbee. So
Yeah, yeah. Because I was like, once I saw Belka catch a disc, I was like, wow, this could be kind of cool. And then I
yeah,
found CFDC, and then yeah,
awesome.
yeah. I
That's
didn't know
really
you started like that too.
yeah. Yep.
And you started at CFFDC,
Same club,
CFDC.
FTDC. Yep, it was
Megan, can you
2000.
please get our club correct? It's
What?
CFDDC.
CFDDC, Central Florida
What a
Disc
dog
and
and disc club. It's
Dog
opposite. It's
Disc.
the opposite of what you would think that it would be. It just is. Think of
Okay.
FTDC. Say,
By the end of the podcast, I'll remember it.
you'll have it. If we have
Thank
learned
you.
nothing today,
That's
we have
nice.
learned the acronym CFTDC.
She has such allegiance to our club.
Hey, I
I
still have a
do.
release for our club, and I started in 2008, so it's not even my club anymore, but it's still my club.
Aw.
I am very proud of us, Jack. We have made it through like 20 minutes, and we haven't focused only on freestyle. So can we talk about freestyle now?
I mean, I knew that you were like chomping at the bit, so go ahead.
I'm very excited to talk about freestyle. That's my favorite game. If you didn't already know that, I'm sure everyone already knows that. But you were awesome at freestyle. Such a joy to watch with your dogs. We loved your performance. It was fantastic. You are the freestyle champion. We're so excited that you came out to play. What do you feel like your strength is? Like, what really sets you apart in freestyle with you and your dogs?
Ooh, I think, well, with Belle, especially her vaulting. I think vaulting is really like her strong suit. Like she loves to do the vaults, and she's very flashy. I think, at least. I don't know if I'm being biased, but she's very flashy with it. And then just her jump, like being able to pick up everything so easy. So it makes it easy for me to like learn new tricks and be able to, do it with her, because she just, whatever I do, she kind of just picks up.
What do you like? What do you really, so like every dog has their strengths and weaknesses, and it's our job as a handler to accentuate their strengths and hide their weaknesses, right? What are the
Mhm.
things that you like with, you have two freestyle dogs that you're playing with. Like I know that for Raya, you just played it, you were invited for a far out, but you play freestyle with both of them.
Yeah.
What are the things that you're like really working on? Where do you have to put your time and attention to accentuate the strengths of the dog or the strengths as a handler? Where are you putting your time?
So I'm doing I have so all three. I've started her in freestyle too. So my other dog, Nala, hers, it was like really just building her confidence, getting her, because she's so, you can still tell sometimes she's like very anxious and nervous to go out there. So it's like I've got to try to hide it. It's kind of hard to hide sometimes, but you can tell because she won't listen as well. She won't bring back, and she'll just like stop and stare at the crowd. So been working on, I've been trying to. She's got come a long way with that. And then Raya, it's just she still has, oh, I see your little yeah.
He's joined
Oh.
all.
Hi, Lee. And then the new one, Raya, she's so fast. So it's like learning her speed and getting her to slow down, calm down, listen, because she's very, very like balls to the wall kind of thing. And then Belle, it's been like she's been honestly the most perfectest dog, and like everything, like it's just so natural with her. So it's just each one is just so different, and it's like learning, like you said, to hide their weaknesses,
Yeah.
but then bring out their strengths. So, and then like Raya will catch like everything. So it's just, I got to pick up my pace now. So I'm
Yeah,
learning that with her.
that's really cool. Yeah, different strengths and weaknesses of the different dogs. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's fun learning it. And then you get like that bond. The bond is so cool because you're like, each one you're like getting trained so much with. And yeah.
They learn to trust you and overcome the things that they're like making progress on. Like if she's nervous, she's
Yeah.
only going to overcome that if she's trusting you.
Yep.
It's not the environment that's going to give her comfort. It's you that's going to give her comfort,
Yeah. So I was really happy. Like at Up Dip this year, she did really good with that. Because there's so many people there. Yeah. So I was like, I wasn't sure if she was like shut down or what. So, but she did pretty good.
Yes, she did.
So, Megan, as you're building your freestyle routine and, thinking about newer players that are starting to build their freestyle routines, you've got so many unique moves and throws in your routines. How do you fit those things in there as you're building the routine? Like, do they all come in at once? Like, are you building like harder sequence? Do you like put in sequences at a time? Like, how do you get those cool tricks into your freestyle routine as you're building it, if that makes sense. Does that question make sense?
Yeah, we'll see if my answer makes sense.
Okay.
So I start with like kind of like a throw. Like if I want to do like a cool trick throw, like right now I showed you the other day how I'm trying to do like the 2 disc throw with Raya.
Right.
So it's very hit or miss right now. So I won't throw it in until it's more consistent. But when I'm working it, so if I'm going to do that one, I'll just kind of like come up with some, once we land that, I'll come up with some other cool, maybe not so cool moves, but like some basic moves so that way that cool throw would be like showcased. And then I just kind of, I don't know, I never really have the ideas in my head until I go out there and just kind of play around and see what she wants to do kind of like after. So see kind of like where her position is when she comes back to me and see if, she kind of, it's weird. It's like they kind of like show me what they want to do, and I just put some random things together, and then if it works out, then we'll keep it and then go on to the next. But I never do sequences until we have, like, I don't have an idea in my head ever until I go out there and just work with them.
Well, don't let me put words in your mouth, so tell me if I'm wrong. But what I think I heard you say is that, so if you have like a cool trick or a cool throw, something that's going to be a signature move for your team, you kind of build it around easier tosses and catches first, so that's the one thing that's difficult, or that's the one thing that you're practicing. Is that true?
And then
Okay.
and then if once we start getting like the sequence down, like coming up with a sequence, we get it down, then I'll work on like making maybe one of those in the sequence, another throw, a little bit more difficult or cool. So it's not just like all basic throws, but once we get like the sequence down, then like the dog will remember the movement of the sequence, then we can start changing things up and everything.
Okay. I think that's a great explanation of it, and great tip, because I know so many players, when they first watch freestyle, especially watching a high level team like yourself, like they look at it and they're like, oh my gosh, how did that all come together? And it's mind boggling for a beginning team. So what a great tip to just like, focus on the one thing in that sequence that you're working on it, make everything else easy, and go from there. Love it. Thank you, Megan.
Well, it came from you. You're the one that taught it.
I was going to say too, the other part that I really liked about that, because that's similar to how I build my freestyle sets. I really liked how you like you're looking to see what your dog is offering and capturing that. So that's one thing that I do a lot, and I feel like my dogs feel happier and more natural to do the movement if some part of that movement was their idea. Does that make sense? So like a lot of times my dog will tell me, they'll just keep offering the same thing that I'm not asking for, but some way they like it. And if I'm not paying attention to them, I might keep correcting it to get back to what I wanted to do. But if I'm looking for what the dog is offering, then it becomes a much more consistent path to the behavior, right? Because it was the dog's idea in the first place. So if you can capture what they offer after you ask them to do something, then it becomes more collaborative, and it's not so much like just the handler telling the dog what to do, but part of it's the dog's idea too. I really feel like that contributes to the natural flow of freestyle,
Well, and like Megan was saying, that's how she ends up with like 3 different, very different routines with 3 different dogs, because she's really keying in on the dog and what the dog is offering.
Yeah, I think that's a really important tip to kind of pull out. I think people get really focused on what they wrote down and want to practice, and not really be able to vary outside of that to take in input from the dog or suggestion from the dog of how something can move differently. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, because I'll like, if you write something, like every time I've tried to write something and I go out there and practice it, it never turns out how I thought it would.
Well, so you play with all 3 of your dogs, and as we said, they're pretty different. You have one that's a little sensitive, one that's like really accurate and fast, but maybe not as like jumpy or flashy, and then you have the perfect girl, Belle, who's the one that you hooked on the sport, and she's just an absolute rock star in every area. Does it seem like any of your dogs like prefer freestyle over far out, or far out over freestyle, or a different game over either one of those games? Like, what's out of your 3 dogs, what are their favorite games?
So Raya would be far out. She just loves to run. So she loves the distance one. And then Nala, I feel like she likes she likes freestyle, but the game, she's pretty accurate. She's not a fast dog, but she's very accurate. Like she stays in the zone, doesn't over jump things, and she's become my more accurate dog in the other games. But then Bella's pretty funny because I hers is freestyle for sure. Because now she used to be so good at all the other games, and now I think I don't know if she's bored or I don't know what it is, but like our last, what was it? At one of our last like recent events, we're doing throw and go, and she just stops in the middle of it and goes and stands in the shade, and I was like, oh, this is our typical. Now it's like the games we don't do so great in, which is fine. Like she saves herself for freestyle.
That's really cool. I would too. I would save myself.
Yeah.
So Megan, back to the whole television thing. You know, I know that you watched the AKC Disc Dog Challenge yourself, and of course it shows on TV the one time that's scheduled, but then it also shows like 5 or 6 other times.
Yeah.
Just curious, have you had any like, you know, long lost friends or long lost family members that saw it and like reached out and said, "Hey, I saw you on TV"?
Yeah, I actually had a lot of my family like recorded it and watched it, and I thought it was pretty cool they did. But then I had friends I didn't tell them, like some closest friends. I didn't tell them. They were just like, one was at Sunny's barbecue, and he was like, "Yeah, I saw you on TV," and he's like, "I knew you did this, and I didn't know you were going to be on TV." I was like, "Oh yeah." And then I've had someone from college and high school that I didn't even think they remembered me from all the way back then, and they're like, "Yeah, I was like just like one guy was at the bar, and he was like, I saw you on TV, and then started cheering for you, and like we got the whole bar going," and I was like, "That's so cool." I was like, I didn't even think you'd remember me. But then for it to be like just like at a bar or like at a Sunny's barbecue or just like on TV everywhere, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's really cool that happens, and now you're famous, right?
Yeah.
Start charging for autographs.
Guys, just start the moment of fame.
It was pretty cool. Never thought I'd be on national TV.
You know, if we do freestyle again next year, which I would absolutely vote for because I love to do it. Hopefully, as our champ this year, you come back and rock the field again next year. Are there any games that you would absolutely want to see in the AKC Disc Challenge that weren't maybe this year or were a previous year? Is there anything that you would say is a game you'd really like to see next year?
So I really like. I mean, my 2 favorites, freestyle and far out. So that was perfect.
We double checked that one for you.
Yeah. Please. But the next one, I actually really like Spaced Out because I just like how it's very like the roll. I mean, we roll the dice to see, and it's very like random where you're at, and then very like you have to go to different spots in the field. I like that one and Greedy. Greedy's just in a drop.
For Spaced Out and Greedy, both. That's interesting. Super cool.
Yeah, I like the agility stuff, but that's pretty hard to like. Funky's hard to get all that stuff up there.
Yeah, don't make me carry more stuff in our van.
We don't need to unpack any more stuff.
Well, Megan, we know that you've got to get to Switzerland, and we want to give you what's left of the morning back. But before you go, we have a segment that we always do with our guests, and it helps us to get to know you a little bit better. It's called the Time Warp Challenge.
Well, no, this is a surprise.
And so here's how this goes. Andrea is going to set her timer for 60 seconds. We have 10 questions. We're going to ask them to you very quickly. Don't think too much about the answers. Just give us the answer that comes to your head. And we're going to try to get through as many of the 10 questions as possible in 60 seconds. Make sense?
All right.
All right.
All right, I'm ready if you are. Are you guys ready?
Are you doing the first question or am I? I forgot.
I'm doing the first question.
All right. All right. You ready?
Ready?
Yep.
All right. Ready, set, go. What dish do you cook most often?
Chicken.
What is your favorite way to get exercise?
Pickleball.
Do you have any siblings?
2.
Would you make a good spy? Why or why not?
No, I can't lie.
What's your favorite up dog game?
Freestyle.
34 seconds left. We're doing good.
Do you believe in ghosts?
Yes.
Yes. What is your favorite disc dog disc to throw?
Supersonic.
Nice. That was quick. Which season is the best?
Fall.
Cold beer or cold lemonade?
Ooh, cold lemonade.
Ooh.
What is one word that no one would ever use to describe you?
Oh my goodness.
3 seconds, 2 seconds,
Skip,
1
skip,
second.
skip, skip.
That's it. That's it.
What'd you say?
You're not gonna answer the last question. That was the last question.
That was the last one. Well, I did technically say a word. I said skip.
I don't think that counts, Megan.
Doesn't count.
Time warp not complete.
Not complete. Did not get the time warp challenge.
So
Didn't get
close.
the spot at the end. It was close though.
Well,
That was a
very
hard one,
close.
though.
yeah, the last one was you had to think a little bit more about that one. So
Yeah.
That was a hard. You ended it with a hard one of self-reflection with 3
Yeah.
seconds left. Like, put that one in the middle next time, Jimmy.
well, then she'll get stuck there and
You
she'll
won't
get
get
stuck
any of the
on 5.
questions.
I would have been stuck for the rest of the 30 seconds.
I'm not sure.
Yep.
Thank you, Megan. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule. We know that you're heading out for an international trip. Please send us lots of pictures.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you for joining us. And Jack, thanks as always for being my partner here at the Updog Podcast. We're grateful.
Yep. Thank you, Dre, for being my co-host. And just like Dre said, Megan, thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate your time. I'm going to just throw a plug in. If you have a little bit of extra space in your backpack, I'm sure Kat would love a little piece of chocolate from Switzerland.
I was going to bring everybody some chocolate back, so.
Oh, well, you'll be everybody's best friend then. And I just want to say to our listeners out there, we hope that we see you out on the Updog field soon.
Yeah, and if you guys have any ideas for additional topics for our podcast, we are going to be posting that on the Updog discussion page soon, asking you for ideas and suggestions of topics we can use for this podcast. So start thinking about that and look for that message. In the meantime, be kind to each other.
And be kind to your dogs. And we will see you guys later.
Pickleball.
Really? What is this pickleball thing?
You've not tried pickleball yet?
Sure.